Mihi mai, mihi mai, mihi mai. Mihi mai ngā mātāwaka, ngā marae maha putanui te motu tēnā tātou katoa. Koinei te mihi hei whakatau atu, koutou ki tēnei wānanga e ki ana ko wahine tua Pakihi, nō reira whakatau mai rā. Ka matu e aku rangatira nau mai piki mai ki tēnei kaupapa hei whakaako atu rā i ngā mahi Pakihi ki a taua ngā wahine Māori. Ka tira, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora whānau, me inoi tātou. A whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te atākura, e teo, he huka, e hauhunga, haumi e, hui e, pai ki e. Kia ora tātou, ko Lisa Nathan ahau, no te tautukarau me Waikato, kei tiatatu i nuku ana, ko a hau te kaihautu o Oka Business Solutions. Tēnā rā koutou katoa, and welcome everybody. Welcome to the first workshop for Wahine Toa Pakihi, and congratulations on enrolling onto the program. And also, both Tanya and I really look forward to being part of your educational journey over the next 20 odd weeks or so, almost 6 months. So just like to say a big mihi to everybody, like to welcome you all here today for this very, for me, an exciting time, an exciting journey that we'll be going through. And more importantly, what's really inspired me to, to offer this program is because we're actually building the skills and capability of Wahine Māori. And that's been working with Wahine Māori for the last 16 years has been a passion of mine and a passion for Tanya. Both Tanya and I have been working in that Wahine Māori business space for many years now, and it's been a privilege to work in this space and be exposed to the wonderful business concepts, ideas, and business operations that are out there. So on that note there, Wahine Māori, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass it over to our other facilitator, my co-facilitator, my colleague, Tanya, and I'm going to get her to introduce herself. So tēnā koe, Tanya.
Ngā mihi, Lisa. And in that moment, my phone rings, turning on silent. Of course, juggling. And guess who it was? My son, who's in the bedroom next door, who knows not to interrupt me. Hilarious. Kia ora whānau. Thank you, Lisa. Ngā mihi nui. It's such an honour to be here with you. I have been through the program and it's amazing. I'm so impressed with what Lisa's created, and I've worked with her before, and I'm incredibly inspired by the professionalism and the amount of talent, and just looking at all of you, reading through your bios that you've sent through collectively as a group that you'll be working with on this journey and sharing with each other. You have us and you have each other. I'm so impressed as established business owners and Māori women to be here, to be doing this. I find I've been in business now since I was a teenager, and I'm 52, so quite a while. And I have found at different times you're reinventing either yourself as a woman or as a leader, or you're reinventing aspects of your business. And this taking time out to work on yourself as a leader and on your business on this journey is just absolutely invaluable. Quick brief background, you can actually see my website taniarupapeta.com and get more in depth. I'm an NLP practitioner. I've been life coaching since I was 29. I have been in business for 30 years. My background mostly in retail and specialising in the fashion industry. Had a retail store in Wellington for 15 years at the high end. And more recently, I've opened Unity Collection in Matakana, which is a Māori design gallery, supporting our Māori creatives. So I've had I feel very, very happy to be able to say that I have been able to bring together with a new business recently with post-COVID and everything, to bring together my passion of Māori, of our creatives, fashion and retail and coaching. And a lot of the people we're stocking have also been coaching clients before. So it's a very exciting time. And I'm really looking forward to being on this journey with you. My pepihara is in the book. I'm Ngāti Kahu from the far north and Ngā Ruahine from Taranaki. my koro travelled down, married my nan, 16 children. My dad's the eldest boy and I was born and raised there. And then I've been in Wellington for business, Spain for travelling. My son was born there, came home, and here I am to summarise it in about 10 seconds. But it's been quite an amazing life. My main focus now with coaching is around business bringing us the lifestyle we want. So I do a lot of lifestyle coaching, and that's where I find I'm most passionate about because of my own life experiences and curveballs. So kia ora, that's me in a nutshell, hopefully quick. The next part now that I'd really like, I'm going to turn my phone off because my 8-year-old boy next door is ringing repeatedly to get me to for whatever emergency, which I guarantee it's Netflix has stopped and then it's another movie on. The things we do juggling. I think we should change mums to juggling. And so now if we could have each
I'll
of you.
share the screen.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Actually, did I share the right screen? Don't think I did.
Perfect.
Oh, yes. Can you see that?
Perfect. So if we go through Carol Smith?
Yeah, Carol. Hey, everybody should have received the workbook. Did anyone not receive the workbook? They should. I did email it to you, Della, but I'll resend it through to you again. And check your jump box as well. Okay, you sent the Alicia Conrad extra email, and I also sent it to the other one, your arts one, but I can resend it to you. Aroha mai, carry on there, Tan.
Carol, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Can you take off your mute?
Kia ora, aroha mai.
Oh, there we go.
I had the parenting drama of 2 boys trying to bust in a closed door, which is not actually uncommon here in our whare. So yeah. I was on mute to politely tell them to go away. Mo taku he. Whoa, ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, he ri tēnei no te aitanga māhaki, ngā riki kai pūtahi tū hoi hoki. Ko Carol Smith tōku ingoa no whakatānia hau, engari kei tāmaki makaurua hau e noho ana I tēnei wā. Kia ora everybody, my name is Carol Smith. I hail from the beautiful Bay of Plenty, a small town called Whakatāne, but currently live up here in the big smoke where I never actually thought I would live growing up in Whakatāne. We hated coming to the city, and here I am. Sorry, what was patai number 2? I can't.
Sorry, I realised I just put the wrong. Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, there we go. My apologies.
No worries. So I have a company called Aro Solutions Limited. I still haven't figured out that sort of 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch about what I do. And primarily that's because I don't know. When people ask me, I tell them I just like to jam on really cool kaupapa that help to uplift our Māori whānau and community. So you find me in spaces like education, I do professional development, I run leadership programs. You'll also find me with an evaluator's hat on, so doing evaluation of typically government programs, especially those that might have an impact on our whānau and communities. Yep, anything that requires our whānau and communities to have a voice, then that is where you will find me. Really looking in this program to actually sort of nail some of those things. As you can probably tell, I'm a little bit of a 500 hats kind of person. And so really looking to think about how we might build some stronger foundations and really get some depth rather than just breadth around what it is that I do. And I'm just going to move all your beautiful faces so I can see what is the one so I suppose that's also my priority really over our 6-month period, is just to kind of nail that that strat plan side of things. I'm my own worst enemy in regards to delegation. definitely a weakness. I am more of a, if you want it done right, do it yourself kind of person. So there's lots of growth that I require in that space.
Yeah, totally understand. Totally understand. It is quite a common aspect of owner operators to want to control everything and to learn to let go. We can work on that in our coaching sessions. That'll be awesome.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Kia ora.
Ngā mihi.
Davida?
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, there we go.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Ai.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, kia ora te whānau. Ko taratara te maenga, ko whangaro te moana, ko ngā toki matapāoro te waka, ko Ngāti Kahu ki whangaro te iwi, ko Ngāti Rangi Matakāka te hapu, ko Tangaro te marae, ko Manuel te tangata, ko Davida Hatirosa ho. I'm from a place called Otangaroa, which is sort of just out of Kaio, and from reading the other two people's PPR, Lisa and Tracy. I'm also Ngāti Kahu, but Ngāti Kahu ki Whangaroa because of our Runanga division. Not far from Kenana, Lisa.
Kia ora.
And not far from Wanganui, not far from anywhere up there really. My business idea, I have lots of ideas. I just don't know exactly which one I want to do. And that's one of the reasons why I'm on the course. I seem to be all over the place. From Friday to Monday just gone, I was in a food container in the Māori village in front of the Shed 10 and Cloud in the city on the waterfront, running just a business selling food in there. I thought that might be what I'd like to do because they offered it to me for a little bit, but nah, I shifted out on Monday because no, that's not the part of the food I want to do, because I don't know what I want to do. So why am I here? To sort of extend on some of the studies that I've been doing. So I've been studying at the Wānanga for a couple of years doing tikanga Māori, and that's where I met Lisa. I did the diploma in small business management before I did tikanga for 2 years, and I'm doing te reo this year. So I guess I'm just trying to gather all the tools I need to figure out what it is actually in food I want to do, if it is food I want to do. And what I've said to Lisa before is I have an autistic son. He's mildly autistic, but the reality is he's not going to stay in high school. He's year 10 now. I can't see him being in high school for a long time, and I don't want him to be a bum. So I'm trying to create an opportunity for him and for me where he can have a future that isn't dictated by a welfare system. And I guess that's my one priority in the next 6 months, is to figure out what it is I want to put my time to, because all my time is actually given to the volunteer sector for sports at the moment. And I work part-time in a sports sector, and I study full-time. And I'm a mum full-time as well. So yeah, that's me. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Davida. Look, aroha mai there, love. I think I might have put you into the wrong rōpū, because I know you had a business for 5 years, Soul Cafe, and I thought that was the one you're going to be using for this, but you're at the idea stage. And you are going to use Soul Cafe? Or?
Yeah, because I just don't know. Like, I ran my Soul's Cafe over the weekend, but where I was situated is not where I want to. That's not what I want to do. Working out of the container.
It might be diversification strategy for you then, Davida, if that's the case. So, tēnā koe there, love. Sorry there, Tana. I'll leave it back to you to continue there, love.
No, that's all good. I think what I've written down here for you is to streamline where you position your business and how you roll out your business. Very great purpose behind it, to want to develop for you and your son. So there's a lot of depth there for some great work to go through the program with each other and then with your coaching. Jessica, are you there, Jessica?
Kia ora, kia ora.
Kia ora, Jessica.
Hi guys. My name's Jessica Henson. I've been running a online business now for going on my 5th year next year. And the reality of what I've learnt with being an online business is that I actually love what I do, and I actually love the concept of being able to provide a business factor online. I fell in love actually with the business concept back in 2015, and when I was introduced to a travel platform. So from there, I've just generated into a business that I started in 2017. I launched the company here in New Zealand, Manatour Travels. Yes, and then we opened up a company in Australia in 2019, just from the success of the travel. So you can imagine with COVID that introduced itself, it totally crippled the platform that I had. However, the platform that I had is the online platform where we were able to help others to set up an online business and virtually through what we had over the years. So I've come to a point now where I understand that running a business can take a lot of your mental and your own personal time away, although you're so committed to it that you only see the vision of what you want to achieve, which for me, I have 5 grown adult children from 17 up to 26. And I'm like many others, my passion is to support the youth of today and not to be on the welfare that we are so used to being on, and be able to have something that they can have access to 24/7 and not be under the own, being under someone else's authority and having their own business and concept with that. And I'm also a little bit hoha with the amount of money that people charge for concepts that shouldn't be that amount, but that is what it is. So I guess I've got a lot to learn with having the right people in play in my business and being able to survive through this COVID period. So yeah, I'm from far north up in Mototau here in the Bay of Islands. I've been here for the last 12 years, I guess, with my hubby that's brought me here. And we live off the grid. So I've been able to use, without having power and all the rest of it, I've been able to run a successful business without having the capabilities of what normal people should have. So I just work to what it is and how it is, and to achieve what I have is only to try and keep my business alive with this COVID that's presented itself. So yeah, that's me, guys.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Jessica.
Kia ora, Jess, did you just move back up to Mototau? Did you? Were you in Auckland previous to that?
Yeah, I've been up here for a while, but I go back. I live in Auckland as well, so I kind of go between because of my kids.
Fair enough too.
So unfortunately, I go to Auckland for about 2 days out of the week, and then I come back here, and then I go back. So yeah, I'm in between Auckland and yeah. But as you can imagine, I'm always racing to come back up north to the homestead up here. So yeah.
Oh, Cesar, you've had an interesting year then, haven't you? Massive year. I'm looking forward to hearing more and learning more about how you've pivoted and managed all of that as we move through. Thank you for sharing. Kathy. Kia ora, Kathy.
Oh, Kathy, you're on mute, love.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kathy.
Ko Kathy, ko putua ki tōku maunga, ko rangataki tōku awa, ko ngā maihi tōku hapu, ko ngā te awa tōku iwi, ko Kathy tōku ingoa. I live in Auckland though, although I'm from down in the Bay. I've been in Auckland now for about 15 years, but I run a gardening business. So I've been running a gardening business for quite a few years now, but for about the last 5 years, I've been doing rongoa Māori, and that kind of where my problem comes in is because I don't feel I can really charge for it. So I do a lot of healing, I make a lot of medicines in that, but the medicine sides and the cream sides of that, my daughter's taken care of because she's sick and tired of people taking advantage of it. So she prices that up. But of lately, I've had quite a few clients coming and they find it hard when I say koha, and I can't charge for my services because God doesn't charge me, so how can I charge? So I do it on a koha basis, but I have now got some clients demanding that I actually charge them, and I find that hard to do.
Okay.
But I do charge for my gardening services, so that's where I make all my money. So yeah, And yeah, that's kind of why I'm here, is to try and learn to do the other side. And yeah, it's probably, yeah, I'm not sure, because I've got a lot of gardening, like I've got permanent gardening jobs, and I've also got a lot of wānangas I've been invited into to lecture at and to do miri and stuff. And see, those are fine because those are all koha. It's actually the individual clients that come in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very common challenge I come across with the one-on-one coaching across the board is the how to charge, and a lot in your space. So that's going to be an interesting journey for you these next few months, working through the mindset side of things, and then working with Lisa and the rest of the team facilitating the program as you move through, when you start to look at shifting perception or shifting understanding around that transaction for what your offer is. So I'm going to watch you with great interest to see how you can transform personally in your mindset and your business. Kia ora, Kathy, thank you. Philippa, Pip, I saw Pip came up on your name. Philippa, are you there? Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. There we go.
Yeah. Ko tongariro te maunga, ko taupo nui a tia te moana, ko te arua te waka, ko te parikawa te hapu, ko Kokura te marae, ko Pip Hartley takuingoa. Yeah, I grew up in the Hibiscus Coast, from the western sides of Lake Taupo, and also Ngāti Raukawa. I've had my business, Karanga Inc., for about 5 years now, since 2015. And before that, I was involved in running a charitable trust, and also kaitiaki of another moko studio as part of the trust.
Oh, good there, lovely. You just went out. Now you're back in. Kei te pai.
Okay. Yeah, so I started my business, Cutting Ink, because I needed to create a sustainable business to sustain my community projects that I always like to do and be involved with, and searching for funding all the time was getting a bit tiresome. So yeah, I started Cutting Ink, and I initially set out to create a platform for artists to be able to, or emerging artists more so, to be able to fly and yeah, gain skills. And so I feel like in the last 5 years I've managed to pull that off somewhat, and all the artists that have been through there, they were all successful in their own right beforehand, but they could see how much they grew in that time. And I realized how much I learned as well, and how much more I need to learn in that time, particularly with leadership and just dealing with different personalities and figuring out how to kind of get my head around the whole business way of thinking, rather than like the collective in a way, I guess, because I was involved with the trust for so long. I always thought about what was always better for the greater good of all, which is a beautiful thing, and I still think like that. But at the same time, my business was struggling and I was struggling because I was putting everyone else before myself and my business, and therefore it wasn't as profitable, I guess, as it could have been. And there's a lot more challenges by having to realize what my boundaries were, and setting strong boundaries was a big thing, and I'm still learning that. But my business, so 5 years ago when I first started the business, I had you have to think about your 1-year plan, your 5-year plan. And my 5-year plan was to live self-sustainably on some lands in the Whenua and be able to set up a home studio. and work from home somewhere beautiful. So 5 years later, and I'm just in the process of doing that. So I actually forgot that that was my plan, and I realized during the process of moving that's what's happening. So that was cool.
Nice how you come back. It's nice how you come back and reflect on that and see it, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll be able to expand on that as we move through the program and in your coaching to really refine and peel back and get back that focus and that pinpoint again as we're moving through.
Yeah, because I feel like it's not quite exactly my like ideal dream situation, but it's like another stepping stone.
Yeah, I
Yes.
read that the ideal. Yeah, we can work on that in your coaching as well. We need to keep moving through the program for our time frame for this evening, but I've made heaps of notes that I really can already see. I can't wait to start coaching with you. So because that lifestyle and culling and defining is an element that I really love working with. So I think we've got enough information there to move through with you, Philippa. I'm excited. Thank you. Sarah, are you there, Sarah? Thank you, Philippa. Ngā mihi nui. Kia ora, Sarah.
Kia ora, it's a whānau.
Sarah, how are you?
Good, thank you. Ko Tiatiawa tōku iwi, ko Ngāti Tama tōku hapu, ko Sarah Sparks ahau. What is my business idea? Well, I've been specialising in communications strategy and PR since 2016, serving kaupapa Māori. So, and the reason that I'm here is that it's just me, and I want to not be a sole trader, contractor, consultant. I actually would like to establish a structure so I can provide opportunities for other Māori communications practitioners. I actually had this idea to have a collective model, but I digress. And I'm really good at securing.
Aroha mai, where's that noise coming from there, Koutou?
It's just had a bit of a...
No, I
It's just really weird.
Is that your side there, Sarah, that noise? We might come back to you there, Sarah.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Sorry, because I can't hear anything there, love.
Thanks,
Kei te pai. I think we've got one more.
Leisha?
Yes, kia ora, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, my name's Leisha Conrad. I come from the far north, far north, Te Kau, and I'm Te Aupori, Ngāti Kuri. So who am I? Well, born and bred up in Te Kau. Learned how to do mahi raranga at the early age of 9. That's how we rolled. So as I was growing up, got back into it in my late 20s and been weaving ever since. What is my business? My business is Pakihi Arts Limited, and what I do, I used to start off with mahi raranga, but I've evolved. I worked alongside Uncle Bub in Te Pakihi, and I realised that there was a niche in the market for kākahu, for kapakati. So I switched from raranga to kākahu back in 2000, registered my business in 2009, and what I do now is I make kākahu. I look after all our top matatini groups. I make kākahu for them, travelling groups, performing groups overseas, and now all the schools, the kura and the primary, and that's what I do. I just go out and I whakapiri them up with mahi, make all their kākahu, even our defence forces and all that sort of stuff. I do all our teams for our navy, kākahu for our navies and that. So it's a big mahi. Why am I here? Why are you here? You know what? I'm a machine. I'm a machine, and I work too hard. And man, I just need to chill out and relax. Prior to me coming on and doing all this, because kapaka uniform keeps me busy all the way through the year. COVID hit. It didn't matter because COVID hit, and then all the schools start putting in the orders for their kapaka tournaments. So even though our national teams aren't performing this year, I'm still flat tack with mahi. So I work too hard. So why am I here? Is I want to. At the moment, my business is going 50% because it's just me and I love it, but it's got the potential to go 100 miles per hour. So I don't want to burn myself out. So I'm here because I want to figure out. Well, I'm bringing on new staff, and I'm started up a training program with Flexi Wage, and I've got a couple of rangatahi on my team, mainly my kids. So I'm teaching their mahi. So I just need to wean myself in. I've run my business all by myself, and I think I'm the man. But I had no experience. I just know how to make stuff, sell it. I know how to kōrero to people, do demonstrations and all that sort of stuff. I used to travel around the world, and last year I went to Grand Ronde in Portland, Oregon, and stayed on an Indian reservation for 2 weeks in a teepee. I loved it. Prior to me starting my mahi, I used to travel the world and with Creative New Zealand and do exhibitions around the world and show my mahi. I've had lots of kids, so now that the kids are old, I want to step out of my business a bit, and I want to travel and go and do all that sort of stuff, but make sure that my kids know how to run my business. So I just want to take a back step out of there, and that's where I'm at. I mean, I have no trouble with sales and business. I work too hard. I just need to take a step back a bit and let my kids teaching my kids to run it, and then I'll go from there.
Kia ora. What I can hear there is about systemizing how you do what you do so the system can run the business and then you can step out, but have reporting in place so you know what's going on without you there as if you are there. So that's a great strategy to have to work on for the next 6 months. Kia ora. Lisa, are you there? Somebody just stepped in, but we're going to hand it back.
Yes, that was Sarah's just come back in again. Sarah there, love, did you want to do your coordinator? Oh, carry on there, love. Sorry.
I swapped to my desktop. My laptop's had a meltdown. Aroha mai. So basically why I'm here is to be able to build a structure and work on the business and make the transition between being doing tactical and being more strategic. And the reason why I'm 51, I've had a very harsh divorce, and I need to make up time and rebuild. So, and it's just me and my 3 babies. And the one priority for my business in the next 6 months is actually as part of building that structure, to identify opportunities that I haven't thought of before in terms of revenue streams that are aligned with my business, that serve kaupapa Māori, and do generate revenue. And that may be online content as well as, because your time is very finite, you can only build with the time you've got. So just exploring other revenue options that aren't as time dependent on me physically, right, to make that transition before I'm in a position of actually committing to salaries and that type of thing. So that's me. Kia ora.
That's exciting. I remember when I first did exactly what you're saying and started to systemize to be able to build the foundation, and same as you, Alicia, and then be able to replace myself with people and know what turnover I need to reach to be able to do that. It's really liberating to start to leverage yourself to another place. And working with Lisa and the rest of the team through these next 6 months, what a great priority to have on this, to work with this. Fantastic. I think that's everybody, Lisa, that's on.
Yes, it is there, Tan. I'm just mindful of our time frame, and so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go through Wahine onto the next page. Now, everybody should have their workbook. Hopefully you've got your workbook in front of you. I'm just on page 5 at the moment in terms of the workbook. Again, just a brief recap of this program. As you would be fully aware, obviously it's a business and leadership program helping you to develop those particular skill sets. So this program, again, just a recap, 10 workshops. Each of them are held on a fortnightly basis, and they are 2 hours long. And then the other support is one-on-one mentoring support. Now that takes place, you get up to 1 hour of one-on-one mentoring support after each of the workshops delivered. So your mentoring on average is once every 2 weeks. And we will be giving you the link to Tanya's diary where you can organise or choose a time and a date that works for you to actually book those one-on-one sessions with Tanya. So just be mindful with Wahine Ma. With our first group, we've already rolled out this program on Monday. There's a couple who ended up booking like 6 one-on-one sessions, or multiple sessions, and so we've had to go back to them and say it's just one session a fortnight. So I just wanted to reinforce that with you guys, and we send the link out to you. So yes, you get up to 10 hours of one-on-one mentoring support because there's 10 workshops. And the last thing you will be doing in terms of an outcome of this program, you will be developing the business model canvas, which is like people look at business model canvas as like a mini business plan, and it's a very high level business plan. So it's just like a one-pager. So part of the program, particularly in the last 5 workshops, we'll be going through the business model canvas process and getting you to put that together. So that's just a bit of an intro into the program. Again, just a reflection of those 10 different workshops that we'll be covering off. Tanya's going to be delivering the first 3 with me, and then we'll be having other facilitators coming on throughout. So just on that note, I'm just going to pass it back to Tanya, because we're going to be talking about leadership, introduction to leadership. So kia ora there, Tan. I'll pass that back over to you there, love. You want me to stop sharing? Because I'm happy to stop sharing.
Yeah, I think if everybody's got their workbook there, then I can see everyone. With the sharing, I can see this. There we go. Right. Now I can see the engagement and their expressions, and thank you. So page 9, whānau, on our book, and what we're looking at is what is leadership and what is your why. What we're working towards here is we're looking at your mindset. We're looking at what motivates you, who you are, what kind of leader you want to be to run your business. And if you're looking at bringing other people on, or you're looking at even how you engage with your customers, your suppliers, everybody, there's an element wherever you have a relationship and you're building those connections, all of that, it reflects on your leadership style. So we're looking at, through page 9, we're looking at, and the worksheet page 10 is actually thinking about who are leaders, who are role models that you admire, and what is it about them that you admire. So you're looking at someone and you're thinking, for example, I like it when I see people calm under pressure when they're leading a team. Some people have lead a team of 5, some have 100, but they're thinking they've worked on strategies to have a clear mind to be able to handle pressure. So we're looking at thinking about who you admire and respect as a leader and what it is about it, because those skills are skills that you want to mirror and model back into your way of being a leader. And a tool that I often reflect to here is be plus do equals have. The be is the being, what kind of person as a human being, how do you want to behave? The do is the doing with regards to the actions that you're taking and leading your team, and then the outcome is what you're going to have. And to me, it's a be plus do equals have is a formula. It's really, really simple formula. And it works for when you're wanting to create a lifestyle. For like Philippa, when you were talking about what kind of lifestyle you're wanting to have, and not to identify it. So you're narrowing down, Pip, about what you want to have. So then who do you have to be? How do you behave? And what do you have to do in order to have that lifestyle? The same for rolling out, leveraging yourself out of your business, as a couple of you have mentioned that you're wanting to be able to bring a team in. So then if you're thinking, well, who's led you in the past in your years of business when you've worked with other people or in companies as a contractor or as an employee, what was their style of leadership that you liked or didn't like, that you totally don't want to be like, or you totally would like to be like? So on page 10, it's about writing some notes. Lisa's made the online book writable, so you can actually put your content directly to the screen, or you can be old school like me with pen and paper, come back to it later. Whatever works for you with your style is to have a think about 3 things that you admire about a person as a great leader and jot them in there. And just have a minute or 2 to write that down. You may have already done that from the moment you got your workbook. And then we'll go through, and a couple of you, if you could share and talk through what it is that. So if we just have a second here while you think about about it, because something I've written here is leadership is to realize your full potential to empower others to be, do, and have the same within themselves. So what is it about a leader that has inspired you, empowered you, and have you think, I want to be like that?
So Wahine Ma, just give some thoughts, reflect on some leaders in your community. Could be whānau, it could be hapu iwi, it could be with whatever context. So if you can think about some of the leadership attributes that they have, and yeah, just jot down what are the 3 top attributes that you observed. I suppose I'd like to reflect upon, and I used this example the other night when I thought about just nearly a year ago, when the decision had to be made by Jacinda Ardern to lock the country down, being the first country in the world to have a total lockdown. And I reflect upon the way reflect upon the courage to actually make a decision to lock the country down. Because you had the business community up in arms saying, look, we're going to affect our businesses. But she stayed staunch to her decision. So courage was one attribute that I admire about Jacinda around that decision she had to make. But the other attribute that I really liked was the fact that she had trust in her team, because the decision she made was based on her team around her, her advisors, the scientists, and she put faith and trust into them. So that was a second attribute that I certainly admired when it came to making a decision of that nature. But the third thing I think she did really, really well was her communication, and being very clear on her communication right at the beginning, and being consistent with her communication as well. So that's just 3 attributes I just want to share with you when I reflect upon the decision Jacinda had to make when it came to actually locking down the whole country. Because you would know, as business owners, that decision, we would have been scratching our heads going, holy crap, what does that mean for us in our business? But look, at the same time, what does it mean for the health and well-being of our tamariki mokopuna and everybody else? And I think for us as wahine Māori, that prevails first and foremost. So yeah, so those are my thoughts and comments. So hopefully for Wahine Ma, you might have some thoughts and comments yourself. So if you want to share them into the chat box, feel free to do so. If you want to unmute kōrero mai, feel free to do so. Otherwise, Tanya's going to pick on you and choose a couple of you to actually share your kōrero.
I can see everyone's writing, so I'll let them keep writing, and I'll give 3 examples, and then I am going to go through the data at the screen. I was thinking about one woman I worked with, and one thing about like you're talking about making a decision, she committed to it. Once she made that decision, she committed to it. Then if she made a mistake, she would correct it, and then she'd commit to that correction. And what she showed us was it was okay to make a mistake. The commitment was to the decision made in the moment she made it was the decision. And then if we made a mistake along the way, it's okay. She also had her values were very close whānau style as a culture within the business. And everything was thought of as whānau-based core values. So that's her developing her culture. And as I said before, calm under pressure. So Karel, I can see you're deep in thought there, and I saw you writing before. So I'm going to throw the
rako
your way for starting. The rako your way for starting. Can you share one with us, Karel?
Yeah, kia ora. I was deep in thought because I was thinking as you were talking, maybe I missed the brief. But I reread it and I think I've got it. But one of the things that really matters to me in leadership is leadership through service.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more prepared to follow somebody who's actually been there doing the do's, not sort of that dictator leadership, but somebody who, when they put their faith and trust in you to do something, they're very aware of what that commitment takes. That was mine.
There is a term called servant leadership as well.
Oh, wow.
And that is a style where everyone's equal, considered equal. It's not a hierarchy. It's a beautiful way. So sometimes you lead from the front and sometimes you lead from the back.
Mm.
It adds value to everyone. And that's gorgeous. Thank you. Who else can I pick on? Pip, 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 pip. I saw you trying to sit back and hide from the camera.
No, to make eye contact, you probably won't pick me, but no.
Want to share one?
Yeah, well, having the ability to problem solve with clarity and foresight, also be able to shift the energy, and having that clarity to uplift people, so that you're not caught in that kind of, that vibe.
Nice.
So you can move faster onto the next thing.
Beautiful. Thank you. The second part of page 10, and then we'll throw the stick at two other people, is about what examples can you think of around qualities, and some of these will overlap. So we've around qualities to do with your unique leadership style. So just some more things we're looking at developing. Some is attributes and skills, and some is core values of, like here it's got mana, aroha. For unity, our design gallery is actually about being open. It's about creating a space where everybody who walks in feels welcome, is able to engage and ask anything without feeling intimidated or shy or any of those, just being able to just stand alongside them and say, ask us anything, we're all here to learn. And to that connectivity. One thing through COVID that was missing was the human connectivity. The one thing that we're committed at Unity is to create a space where people can come and connect. And those are really strong core values that if I'm not there, which I'm not there, I'm there maybe a day or two a week, the rest of the team, they withhold those core values because it really clearly there for them to know that that's what it's about. Yes, we sell art, we sell fashion, we sell design. What it is really about, the energy in that store and the wairua in that store, is the connectivity, the openness, the welcoming, the aroha. And we have people come in and end up in tears. They end up telling us then they don't understand because they're in a retail shop. They didn't expect to walk in and have that overwhelming emotion. And it's so beautiful. And that's where we know that we are delivering our heart, we're delivering our core. And that's because we have so much clarity around our core values, which is what this is, what we're talking about here. You're at the beginning of creating your story, your story of, or rewriting your story, because you're established businesses, and rethinking about where you're at, where you've been, and where you want to go, and what you want to take with you, and what you want to add to your journey now. So it's thinking of all of those things. What else you would like to have in your vision, and that's what you page 10 is for working through. Anybody else like to volunteer to share before I pass over our stick here? And some other core values you can think of. What? Sarah's written one in the chat. Let's have a look. Nice. Resilience, leadership qualities, integrity in word, advocate. Oh, that's beautiful. So you can see there are people have shared in our chat box there as well, if you push onto your screen.
I can't even see the chat. So
On the chat on the bottom of the screen, leadership qualities. Okay, let's turn to page 11. There's some in there. We've shared some. Page 11 is the 5 words you want your whānau and the people in your business to how they would describe your unique style, how they perceive you, how you want to be perceived, what you want people to say about you, how you want to be as a leader. I'm loving the deep in thought faces I can see on the screen here. You're really processing it and you're really thinking it through. Leisha, would you like to share something there? You look like you're ready to jump in the screen.
You jump. So yeah, I'm just looking at this because I've never worked for anyone before. I've only worked for myself. So I sort of did a little stint for sewing there for a while, for about a year, and then I've just I do work with a lot of people. I suppose I'm gonna get that screen up to see what we're talking about. 5 words that you'll find out on people involved in your business to use to describe your unique leadership. Well, I'm a bit of a no muck around. When they get me into their ropu, they know if Alicia's here, get over there. I measure them up. They don't muck around. They don't ask me stupid questions because I'm only there on a mission, and they all know that. So every time I walk into Kapaka ropu, I come in and they stop their practice and I go in and I'm only there to do my mahi and I'm out. So they know I'm a no fuss. Don't come around and do that sort of stuff. And they know that, and that's what I'm really good at. The other thing that they value from me is I'm a solutionizer. So they ring me up, Leash, I'm going on stage and I need to, be pregnant or, something like that. So it's up to me to design kaku to make that sort of stuff work on stage. So every time there's a problem, they ring me or they call me in, they show me the bracket and they say, what can you do for us? So I come up with all these solutions. And that's why they always call me in. And I'm one of the only ones that can solve those problems. So that makes me a little bit unique. So when the going gets tough, they ring me, and they're very scared to ring me. But when they ring me, we go in and we fix it. But it's just hard, a little bit hard for me to kōrero about because I've sort of haven't full-time job. I've just been weaving all my life. Yeah.
And I think if I was to summarize it, they have a lot of trust in you, a lot of faith.
Yep.
So they know that that you would be there for them. And
they also do appreciate. I work hard, so they don't waste my time. My time is precious, and they never waste my time. So that's a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah. And so you've projected that, and that's how you've projected that from a core value of yours, and then as a result, you're leading them to deliver that to you. So there's no hoha there. That you're saying I'm here to do this, and this is what they're bringing. So that's a leadership style.
And Leisha, there's a reason why you're still in business after 15 years. Okay, so all of those attributes is a testament to the quality of your leadership style. So ngā mihi there, Leisha. Thank you. And in fact, you talked about an attribute, problem solving. In fact, all your businesses, you are all problem solvers. You're actually trying to solve a problem that your customers have.
Yep.
Okay, and this is what you are all doing. You're solving a customer problem. They've got a need and you're coming up with a solution. So it's all about how you develop the value proposition around that solution and how you promote it to the right customer audience or segment. So thank you very much for sharing with us, Alicia. Back to you, Tan.
So again, on page 11, what we're looking for is to build your story. It's your brand story, your leadership style, and your brand story. So when someone says Sarah, when we're talking about Sarah in communications and PR, we can look to her brand and then know what to expect when we partner with her to do our PR, because it's reflecting in her brand and her kōrero and her style. We know there's professionalism there. I've already, we've seen that directly from her conversation. So it's how are people talking about you, and then how are you wanting to be perceived? And so it's as part of your brand story, as I talked about with Unity. With mana coaching, what's important for me is the intelligence side of things. With all the study that I've been through, all the education, there's also what's important to me is the experience. So, and really important is confidentiality, because people have to trust. In order to work with a life coach, when you're talking about running a business, you'd be amazed. I have CEOs come on board, 100 staff, and what they want to sit there and talk about is their husband, because or whatever it is. And it's like such a personal, important issue that's impacting the energy level of them to go in and deliver their business. So if they don't feel that they can trust to talk about something and that we can smash it, and let it go, or find a way for them to build a bridge and get over it and get communicating again so she can go back in and run her company. That trust is really important, and that confidentiality. So I often say I'm trying to forget, which sounds ridiculous, but it's true, because I can't carry it on. And not only that, I have little things like I have my little gems with me to protect my wairoa, to keep it off me. It lands here and it stays there. It's never on me. So there's certain tools like that have become my leadership tools in order for me to be able to be clear, to work intuitively and confidently with clients. So those are my personal leadership style, and it's something that we develop, and then it's organic. So there are some things that work, and then think, no, actually I'm not going to take that on, it doesn't, and you're constantly reevaluating your leadership style in yourself. So that's why I so admire you all for turning up and being here after being in business for so long. It just shows that you want to work on yourself and on your business and keep growing and not be stale, keep moving. And the power of networking we've talked about as well. You're all in this together now. This is your new Wahine Tō Pakihi whānau, is this group, is your group, plus you have all of us. So you just got this whole new team. So you think that you're running your business on your own, but actually there's 11, 12, 13 of us here today. So you now have this team. You have, your accountant, your facilitator, your coaches, your suppliers, your person who gives you your food at the supermarket, the person who babysits, the person they're all your team. So it's how you lead all of them. I worked with one woman who had 100 and something staff, and she had a cleaner who came in and looked after all the shops and all the businesses, and she dressed that cleaner. And she was the most awesome, like all the way through. Every single role in that business was valued. It's those things that we're looking for. So is there someone who'd like to share a couple more in there, or we're happy to keep moving through? Those things, again, you get one-on-one coaching if you're stuck on things. Like you were saying, Lisa, about, you've worked self-employed. I've been self-employed forever, except I've had contracts where I've stepped in with different people. And then there'll be other areas that you may have worked in iwi or hapu or something where those leaders you may be reflecting on, or global leaders, people you've respected, values, or you may just have that and this part's easy and then there's other parts to evolve through.
So Wahine Ma, this is going through and getting you to think about some of these qualities and these attributes when it comes to leadership, allows you to think about, well, what type of attributes do you already have in terms of how you demonstrate that, but what are the attributes that you don't have that you would like to develop further? And this is where your personal growth and putting together a personal development plan, be able to identify areas that you need support and help with. And so part of this exercise is being able to get you to reflect upon that, but also to think about what are the areas you feel that you need work on, because Tanya, with her life coaching background, is available to help you work on some of those key areas that you feel you might need support and development with. So kia ora there, Tanya.
Kia ora.
So on that note, I think we're passing it back to me now there, Tan.
I was just checking through my list and our time frame. We're back on track with our time, which is cool. And I think, there's enough in there. Everyone with established business owners, you have already a lot more understanding of this than if you're stepping in for the first time. So it's beautiful. I can see that. And I also have a lot of trust that if something comes up, you'll reach out and we'll work through it at a one-on-one if that's what you're looking for. So Lisa, back to you.
Thank you very much there, Tam, because what I want to do now, Wahine Ma, we're going to go through this concept called self-leadership. And as much as we talk about leadership in a broad context and leading others, look, if you can't lead yourself, how do you expect to lead others? And part of self-leadership is actually not just thinking about leading just the business part of your life, but actually leading every other aspect of your life. And this is why we look at self-leadership in the context of te whare tapawhā. Wahine Ma, you're familiar with te whare tapawhā? Anyone not familiar with te whare tapawhā at all there, Wahine? Okay, well, it sounds like you all are. So when we talk about self-leadership, we're talking about the things, actually, I'm going to ask you the question, what does self-leadership mean to you? And why do you think it's important? What does self-leadership mean to you? And why do you think that's important? And I'm going to lead off with a couple of yous that are actually involved in community activities. Davida, you're one of them there, love. You're involved in a number of voluntary roles. You give a lot of your time to the community. So I'm really interested to hear from you what self-leadership means, why you think it is important. Or just on mute there, love.
Well, I don't know what to say. I just do what I do because I've always done it.
And I think that's probably goes for most of us.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you do what you do because you've always done it, but that actually comes from somewhere else or from observing others as well. So if you were to reflect on that, who were the real greatest influences in your life growing up? Was that your mum?
Yeah, I probably got it from both my parents. They're both hard workers. My dad is a Pakihi and he's a businessman. And my mum, he met her in Motueka picking tobacco, but he's taught her how to be a businesswoman. And as kids, I just remember always everybody else's kids playing on the street and we have to go to work from little kids. And that's the same thing I do to my kids now. So I'm just passing on what I've learned and just teaching them life skills along the way, because without that, well, they should never be poor. They should never be homeless. They should be able to make something out of nothing. And that's our saying. You can always make something out of nothing. That's why I don't know what I want to do, because I can do so much.
Couple of key points you actually mentioned there, Davida. One of them that really resonated with me was the work ethic that was instilled in you at a young age. Okay, again, you observed your parents and you've picked up those habits. And so in terms of self-leadership, you know, self-leadership can be also developed by looking at how others lead their lives and how others actually live their lives in a good way, a bad way, and sometimes an ugly way, because we can learn from all of those experiences. So what I want you to do there, Wahine Ma, just jot down a couple of notes on, I think I've got on page 13 of your workbook. What does self-leadership mean to you? Why is it important? And the second area there, question there is, what are examples of self-leadership practices you have implemented? So I just want you to think about that for about half a minute or so, and then I'm going to get you to share your observations, your whakaaro, and then we'll certainly go into a little bit more detail in terms of self-leadership in the context of this program. While we're doing that, I'm going to get Tanya's whakaaro and thoughts on self-leadership while you guys are actually writing down your comments there, Tan. What are your thoughts there, love?
I was about to write some in the chat. I was thinking about what self-leadership means to me and why it's important is around self-leadership for me is around having the flexibility and freedom. So the more that I am scheduling or managing my time or even have an understanding of what kind of lifestyle it is that I actually want to have and make my business fit to that, not the other way around. That's a very important thing to me. Having to, you know, I want to be that parent who is available for my son. Time, I'd like to be more available mentally. Sometimes we have the time and my mind gets busy. So that's something for me to be mindful of to work and to make sure I make time to play with him. However, that is the main thing for me, is about me being able to choose how I use my time. And monitoring is a big thing that I really love, is monitoring outcomes, monitoring cash flow, monitoring my week, my time. I set a week, I like reflecting back and seeing how it's gone with matching it against my goals. And all of that is just strategies that I've created to be able to have the kind of lifestyle I want to have.
Kia ora Tan, that's awesome. There's a couple of comments resonated with me from that there, Tan. One is to be able to, it's about your business fitting around your life as opposed to your life fitting around your business. Okay, that's a very important point, because sometimes at Wahine ma, when we get so focused on doing our mahi, we forget to put our head up and look around. Okay, and look around to see, well, actually what impact is this having on other aspects of my life, e.g. te taha whānau, e.g. te taha wairua, te taha tinana, okay, te taha hinengaro. And that's why it's really important in terms of self-leadership, is being able to lead in all those aspects of your life. So on that note, a couple of comments I'd like you to share. Sarah, would you mind just sharing your thoughts there, love? I don't know if you're with me, but you're on mute at the moment there, love. Kia ora.
I am. In terms of my self-leadership practices, I've got a mentor circle. So I check in with their older queer in particular. And the other thing, I mean, I agree with what Tania's whakaara was. I've got you can't see it because I haven't actually got a camera on this computer, my whānau, but I've got a values list. And in my profession, when I'm dealing in media and comms, I use that a lot because I get presented with situations that are quite serious and powerful, and I have this tatty looking values list in my wallet that I pull out, and it is a self-leadership practice. So if I get the speed wobbles, it's written down and I look at it, you know, things just like growth and connection and inspiration and creativity and kindness, when sometimes in work can be quite intense. So there are a couple of self-leadership practices that I use.
Thank you there, Sarah.
If that's answering the part, sorry.
No, it certainly is. I mean, the good thing about it, you've got strategies in place. You know, you've got things that you already actually put in place that will allow you to reflect, depending on the moment or the crisis or whatever's going on at that time. You've got something you can pull out and just reflect upon, and it, hopefully it calms the wairua, and it calms your wairua. And that's a very good point, because one of the things that you find as a business owner, this concept of emotional intelligence, EQ, very important. Business, personal life is how we react to challenges and how we deal with situations. So there, Sarah, I like your little tip there, because sometimes when things don't go well or shit hits the fan and all of a sudden we're in this emotional state, trying to find something to be able to bring that emotional, or allow you to control that emotion so that you can still make good decisions, because sometimes in an emotional state you don't necessarily make the right decision. So look, thank you very much for that there, Sarah. That's excellent. Now, in terms of, in fact, Jessica, would you mind sharing with us your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I kind of the ability to have the flexibility and the freedom, and to be able to be yourself and expose yourself in a professional mannerism when you may be having a really crap day and you've got to go on a Zoom and you've got all the people coming at you and you've got to put on that persona of nothing's wrong and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think the what works for me is just being who I am and my vibe, and that ripples out to others to know who I am and what I'm like, and being straight up and just keeping it like that. So sometimes it's a bit hard, but at the same time, when you're running your business, you want people to be able to project it to you and not go, oh my God, I'm not going near her because she doesn't have a good vibe about her. So yeah, it's just, and then when I teach others to be their own bosses, it's always about creating your own vibe and your own buzz. So I'm not here to tell you how to create yourself. It's what you want to be and how you want to be. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And I think that's about you all being the authentic you. Okay. Don't try to be someone you're not because you want to project an image that you think they want to see of you. You've just got to be true to yourself, true to your values, your belief. And look, at the end of the day, unless, you know, those are the things that are important to you. And so therefore, at the end of the day, it's really important that you really prioritize the things that are really dear to your heart. And so look, thank you very much for that. And it's interesting that you actually made a comment there, Jessica, and I was reflecting upon, like, half an hour before my Zoom session, I had a bit of a heated discussion with my partner. I'm going, I want you out of here because I'm about to go on Zoom and I need to be in a state of teaching, not the state I'm in at the moment. And so we all have those situations where, oh my gosh, something's happened, and all of a sudden you've got to sort of snap out of it and think, well, I've got to present now, and I've got to put my facilitation hat on. So yes, I really resonated with your comment there, Jessica. So thank you very much for that. So on that note, Wahine Ma, we're going to go through to page 15 on your workbook. We're going to be talking about the 4 po of self-leadership. So those 4 po that's outlined in your book, he keeping up whaiaro. So the self-discovery. Now that's the first po. We are going to be going to a lot more detail with that first po in the next workshop, workshop 2. And the reason we do that, because self-discovery is a journey, is your journey to discover your why. And no doubt some of you's probably already discovered your why. But essentially what this process allows us to do is to reflect on our past, reflect upon the decisions that we've made, because those decisions have led to where you are today. And it's important we reflect upon those decisions in order to make conscious decisions in the future. And part of the self-discovery process is that we're getting you to actually develop a bit of a brand story, your authentic story. Your personal story is also your brand, your business story, your business brand, because people don't necessarily buy what you're selling, they buy the why. Okay, and that's why it's really important that and no doubt, especially with Wahine Māori, there's aspects of our history and our life that people can resonate with. And if you can be able to build your story and share your story, guess what? You're actually able to develop this trust in people, because people can then resonate with your story and they'll be willing to listen to what you have. And people actually really like to hear vulnerability. Vulnerability is actually quite powerful, you know, and if you share your vulnerability, you'll be surprised at the type of response that you'll get. So part of the self-discovery journey is getting you to think about, what is your personal story? How do we make your personal story a brand story for your own business? Because we're creating, this is the authentic you. Your history is you. And hence the reason it's important for us to go through that process. So that's in the next workshop, Wahine Ma, that's the self-discovery. Number 2 po is he whakaitanga whaiaro. So we're looking at self-acceptance. And earlier Tanya talked about the importance of, you know, if you make a mistake, you know, just learn from it, move forward, as opposed to dwelling on it, and as opposed to this negative self-talk. When something doesn't go right, we've got to actually push that negative self-talk aside, okay? And self-acceptance is being able to say, okay, I stuffed up, I made a mistake. Yes, something didn't happen the way that it was supposed to happen, but you learn from it, and that's first and foremost, and you make change from that learning for future decisions. So here whakaitanga whaiaro really goes through the process of just accepting the good, the bad and the ugly decisions sometimes we make as human beings. Number 3, he motuhakitanga whaiaro is all about self-management. So self-management aligns closely with self-discipline. And self-discipline is being able to, one of the attributes as a leader when it comes to self-discipline is, and self-management is integrity. In other words, if you book a mentoring time with Tanya, you better make sure you do that. at Tanya's mentoring session or cancel in advance. Okay, so this is self-management. This is about being aware about the people you've said you've committed time to. You either commit the time to that person, or you just say, look, unfortunately, circumstances have changed, and communicate in advance of changes to happen. So that's why it's really important there, Wahine, when it comes to self-management. Integrity is such a real key aspect of that. Now, the other thing I just wanted to share with you is just a couple of tips that I do from a self-management perspective. I have to have everything in my diary. I don't know if people operate a diary system. Hands up, how many of you operate a diary system? I'm an Outlook girl, okay? So I have to have everything in my Outlook diary so that I can see, because I'm a visual person as well, I can see where my time's being spent, and I can see the gaps in my day, and then it allows me to then plan for that week. I like color coding my Outlook as well. So I have my te taha tinana, my exercise, anything to do with exercise is color coded in yellow. And then I also put time aside. I've actually downloaded this app, or I've subscribed to an app, and it's called Calm. I don't know if anyone's heard of Calm, but Calm is a fantastic app because it's just for my taha wairoa and taha hinengaro. It just allows me to zone out, because it's like a meditate. There's a number of meditation podcasts on this app, and so I use that at night. Helps me go to sleep. So that's what I turn on just before, because I get into this rhythm. So it helps me to sleep, but it also helps me to get rid of stress as well. So that's another thing that I put into my diary is that. So I just wanted to give you some tips and tools around self-management, and that's what we'll be covering again, but that won't be until workshop 3. But look, is there a couple of you there that would like to share perhaps some self-management tips that you might already implement as part of your own practices? Feel free to share. Otherwise, I'll just pick on you. Pip, how do you manage yourself? What's your self-management practices looking like?
Well, in the past, it's probably been considered quite terrible, but I'm working on it, and it's all about balance. Finding the balance for me is like my key word for the year, and just if I'm getting it right, yeah, basically finding the balance and creating space to be able to do all the things. Yeah,
beautiful. That's exactly right. So that whole balance aspect. So think about that, and perhaps if in the context of te whare tapawhā, or even in your own context, where is that balance? What is it looking like? Now, Alicia, you also mentioned you're working your butt off. Alicia, you're talking your worker. So my concern for you
I'm listening to all you guys, and I'm thinking, damn, I don't have any of that, because I just work. Sometimes I'm in my shed till 12 o'clock at night. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm in there. I'm a donkey on the edge, mate. And I do it, and I'm thinking, I'll just go in there and I'll start early. I'll start like 5 hours early, so I'm ahead of my mahi. And then when I'm ahead of my mahi, I think, I'll just start another 5 hours early so I can be ahead of the next mahi. And there's no end. I'm just on and on. So, I'm sitting here listening to you fellas, and I'm thinking, holy hell, I feel a tear coming on, because I'm so not like any of you fellas, because I'm just like, and I'm in my shed and I do my mahi, and my mokos are running around, and it's like, hariatu, I'm doing some mahi, and I don't even spend time with my mokos, and I'm sitting there thinking, they're more important than my mahi. So this is a good thing, I'm totally opposite to all of you fellas, but yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, you idiot, Leisha, just get your shit together. Stop thinking about mahi all the time and have a lovely quality life. And I do. I'm stupid. I just got to have a break, yeah.
I so totally resonate with your kōrero there, Leisha. And I was like you there, love. I was working, because I teach evenings, and wānanga classes are all held in the evenings. I'm teaching all those classes. I teach the weekends. I'm operating my business throughout the day, and I saw very little of my girls. And then I had a significant health scare last year there, Wahine, which I'm happy to share with you. I was diagnosed with breast cancer during the COVID level 4 lockdown. And you know what, whilst it was a real shock to the system, it's probably one of the best things that have ever happened to me, because I actually had to sit still and start thinking about everything else other than business. And that's what it did for me, you know. And so what it allowed me to do is make some significant changes. I realized that I was just doing business and business, weekends, evenings, and during the weekdays, and I saw very little of my kids. And like you there, Alicia, they'll come in and might be asking me questions. Oh, I'm just a little bit busy at the moment there, hun. Let me get back to you. And then I don't get back to them. And like you, what the hell am I set up a business for? It's supposed to be about them. It's ended up being about the actual mahi itself instead of being about them. So the purpose of why I set it up, I wasn't living. I wasn't living my purpose. And so that's why, you know, although that experience with breast cancer last year was a very scary experience, I'm actually quite grateful that a significant growth came from that experience. So I just want to acknowledge you there, Alicia. So thank you. Thank you very much for sharing with us how you're feeling. So ngā mihi. Janine, then love, I think you are on board. So we've got another of our wahine that's on board, and I wanted to get her to introduce herself there, Janine, before we introduce our lovely guest speaker for tonight. Janine, go for it there, love. I'm going to get you to introduce yourself, your business, and what are your aspirations. No, just on mute at the moment there, love. Oh, you're on mute still. Oh, Janine, can you hear me there, love? You're still on mute.
Yeah. Kia ora koutou. Sorry about that. I was just in another hui because you may have heard on the news this week we had a rāhui on Waiheke to put a no fishing on kutai, scallops, paua and crayfish, which actually don't even really exist anyway, but was good to make a stand to really take what little few ones are there, just to have a no take on them. So yeah, I've just been in another hui on that. So what what am I doing now?
You're introducing yourself there, Janine. Who are you? Your pepeha, your mahi, and your aspiration.
Okay. Kia ora koutou, ko Janine Clark-Anahau no Ngāti Hako, Ngāti Paua, ki te taho taku pāpā, then no tauranga moana, ngai te rangi, Ngāti Ranginui, and te kaukauro pātatere, raukawa, ki te taho tuku māma. Piki ake au ki Taupō, so I grew up in Taupō. Then we returned to Pairota, my dad's whānau, when I was 16. And then from there I've been going all around the place doing my design, and now I've had my label since 1994. I started when I was 24-year-old, and now I'm twice that. So, but I've always, over the time, I have so many phases, and so this was another phase in my business when I thought I needed a little bit more guidance and strategy, and pretty much how I'm gonna make the most of the momentum I've done so far in my business and career and branding to leverage me for the next 15 years until I retire. So that's a little bit about where I'm at, and I do fashion design. My biggest seller at the moment is my blanket clothes, and my biggest project I'm doing at the moment is a big exhibition in Waikato Museum in August. So I've got to get a bit of focus, so hopefully this program will give me a bit of focus and also some other tools and productivity to leverage off that once I do that.
Kia ora, thank you very much for that there, Janine, and welcome on board the program there, love. We look forward to being part of your journey over the coming months. So ngā mihi nui ki a koe hoa. And on that note, we've got our lovely guest speaker here tonight, the wonderful Awarangi Tamahere. Kia ora there, Awarangi. So Awarangi is coming on board, and she's going to have a bit of a kōrero about a whole lot of different things, including Te Whare Tapawhā. Now, Awarangi's father's been accredited as the developer of Te Whare Tapawhā. So she's got certainly some experience there, personal experience as well, but also she's part of part of the whānau order, well, actually not part, she is the whānau order commissioning agency there, and she plays a wonderful role in terms of assisting our whānau and our community. So over to you there, Awarangi. Kia ora e whā.
Oh, kia ora. Look, I know half of you on here, and some of you I haven't seen for a really, really long time. Kia ora, Janine. Hey, I mean, I've followed you from years and years ago. That's how old we are, but I'm a stalker of yours on Instagram anyway. Anyway, but you won't know my name. It's actually Ms. AL65, so I'm not giving a lot away about who I am on Instagram, but yeah, it's cool. But nā mihi mahana ki a koutou. Kia ora, Lisa. I tipuaki a hau ki Aorangi, ki Manawatu. Ki te taho tōku pāpā no Ngāti Kauwhatarangitāne, Ngāti Raukawa, ki te taho tōku mama no Kaitahu Runga Whatakata, Ngāti Parau. Inuau nai nei ki Tamaki Makaurau. Good to be here. Look, half of you, most of you here have your own life experience about Te Whare Tapawhā anyway. And even though you talk about my dad and I must know about it, hey, I'm probably the worst one to balance all those four parts of the whare and keep it upright. I think it's fallen down a lot of times in my life, trying to tackle all the four sides and keeping hinengaro, you know, wairua, whānau, tinana, all upheld and balanced when you're trying to work out a career, family, jobs and other things. And I pick up on some of the kōrero tonight, you know, that not everything is in your control. And even though you might have a plan about going forward, sometimes there are, well, for most of us actually, there's setbacks. Sometimes there's bigger setbacks and sometimes there's smaller setbacks. But you know, it's actually the setbacks that actually take you to the next step of a massive jump to really put you where you never would have been before, even though it doesn't seem like it at the time. So probably for me, there's been all sorts of things happen with my career and work and things like that. And I had it all sorted out, what I was going to do, the linear motion, and originally had a health career sorted out. And then I changed, and then I went into the private sector with KPMG where Lisa was, and I had it all sorted out, linear, how I was going to work. But then, you know, there's this thing called dual careers. And so my husband's career at that time took into politics. Well, that had an adverse effect on my career to a lot of extent. And, you know, I took it out on him for a few years while I was becoming a mama, home with my babies, but it was the best thing I did actually in hindsight, and all sorts of things like that. You know, I never thought I'd be in the thrust of, he's been campaigning for the last 2 years, and goodness me, that was not part of the marriage license, that I was supposed to be the campaign manager for him and do all of those sorts of things. But gosh, you know, out of that, you learn so much resilience, and you push yourself to another level you never do. And that really helps you in the business framework. It really helps you with your own kaupapa. It really helps you with your own passion. It's hard to see, but you know, Janine, I just listening to you talk about where it's coming to. Sometimes if you just take a leap of faith into something totally unexpected, that's actually what sets you as a springboard for the next step. But you know, often in business and balancing things, it's about navigating the grey. And you hear Lisa's story, and I'm just amazed at Lisa's story, you know, but for Lisa, look at the turnaround, what she shared with you tonight, the whole turnaround in her business, totally focusing on her children, and why wasn't she doing that earlier? I mean, for me, it made sense when I was helping with campaigning and so forth over the last 2 years, even though then I was thinking, no, I'm sticking to my job in the Whānau Order Commissioning Agency and Whānau Waparata. It's just opened up for me another lens for me about what am I doing for my great-grandchildren, not necessarily my grandchildren, and kaupapa Māori and leaving a blueprint for them where I've really actually helped support being a te ao Māori worldview, and really doing something on the ground that enables them to take that next step. So, you know, there's lots of things that come into play when you're looking at a business, as well as just your traditional business planning and sorting out so forth, those plates. But as Wahine Māori, that we probably actually, those are our strengths, you know, those are our strengths passed down from our grandmothers, our great grandmothers, our aunties, our great aunts. And often just sitting down and hearing the stories passed on from them, those are the snippets also that actually really put the X factor in where you want to go. You won't realize it, but it's the storytelling they share. It's the storytelling of your life journey, separate to where you see yourself in business, that really give you that edge and really bring out your passion in quite a different way that, you know, sometimes in a traditional business planning sense, which you'll get the models and methodologies for, but you need that X factor, something different. People say it's all about the passion, or that's true, but sometimes you've got to unlock that. And unlocking that comes from resilience, tough yards, challenges, but often it's the storytelling amongst us as Māori women and our own whakapapa and going back. And even if it's going way back, researching it, because there'll be little insights that you get that really will inspire you for the next stage in your business. So is that what I'm supposed to be talking about?
Yes, exactly. But I'm glad you said that, because we just talked about the importance of self-discovery and the importance of our own story and being the authentic you, and your own story actually becoming part of your business story, your brand story, and being true to yourself. So you've just emphasized some of the kōrero we spoke about earlier. So thank you very much for that, Te Awarangi.
Yeah, but that's cool. And you know, the thing, I'm really passionate about the work I'm doing with the Whānau Commissioning Agency, but even more so, as you probably know, we've done a massive work behind the scenes in advocacy about the issues facing our mokopuna with Oranga Tamariki. And just recently, it's probably not public knowledge, we actually secured a vote transfer, not a contract, a vote transfer from Oranga Tamariki and ACC, for whatever reason, to Puni Kōkiri to come to the commissioning agency. And it's called Ngā Tini Whetū. And it's for the first time, we've got over 80 whānau partners across the North Island. We're actually able to give money to do their own kaupapa Māori programs, not bound by service specifications, not bound by outputs, not bound by activities, in a way that makes sense to them, to work with whānau so they never get to the footstep of Oranga Tamariki. So I'm really excited about it, because the timings happen with everything I've been going through my personal life and things, but my passion is very much in that area, and it is so cool to be part of the journey. So that's on my work front. You know, and you have all sorts of things. Did you want to talk to me, Lisa? You know, I just went to the acupuncture today because I had a really sore back. Well, I've just found out I've got a fractured tailbone tonight, but you know, today. But you know how it is, eh? Oh God, just keep going and carry on. But anyway, hey, I'm 55 now. It's not going to be easy to just keep juggling all the different aspects, and health is part of your worldview. But you just, as you, Lisa, I mean, I take my hat off to all of you who have those stories. But you know, when your passion is incited to another level, there are challenges, but you just keep going, don't you? You know, you just keep going.
It's exciting there, Awarangi, to hear about Ngā Tini Whetū. And firstly, it was an honour to be part of the pilot for Ngā Tini Whetū. So I was one of the mentors when they did the Ngā Tini Whetū pilot. So I'm fantastic to hear where things are going with that program. Brilliant there, Awarangi.
It's just inspiring. And, you know, there was a couple of pilots, you know, we all have them in our own rohe. So, you know, it's just unlocking ways that we can unleash the hope and the power and the belief in our own wahine Māori, that through kaupapa Māori programs, they actually can stand up. They can stand up and not always be in crisis all the time. They can avert crisis. They can become stable. They become resilient. They become leaders for their own whānau, and they become leaders in the community. I mean, that's a whole journey, but that's a whole journey about Māori women in business as well, isn't it? You know, when you first start out, you're just going from crisis to crisis, right? You try and sort things out. You get a little bit stable. Then there's a big jump to being resilient. And then there's a jump to saying, oh, I'm actually starting to support the leadership of my whānau with the economy, you know, looking at my own children being able to get an income and potentially what that means for future generations. And then before you know it, sometimes you're in an opportunity where you can give other Māori employment opportunities in your own business. It's exactly the same kaupapa we're all working towards, but in different ways. Yeah.
Oh, kia ora there, Awarangi. And look, there's a couple of here tonight that just had spoken about the importance of actually succession planning, you know, bringing on the next generation into our business and being able to support and grow and being able to, you know, instill those practices, that work ethic. And so, yes, I mean, one of the things, again, it really goes back to what your purpose is in business, doesn't it, Te Awarangi?
Absolutely. And, you know, part of your purpose in your business, if you're not quite sure about the purpose in your business, you know, one of the cool things to do, it depends if you're audio, visual, or whatever, is storytelling and just writing your story for yourself in a book, because, you know, that storytelling actually becomes part of the whakapapa of your business. And so much can happen when you're starting to look and shape and think about your business and keep it going, or what's the next step for my business. And when you reflect on that, there's some gems in storytelling. Storytelling is what we often use in the whānau order space. So it is about data capture and so forth, like the cold tools, if you like. But if you talk about the mahana, the warm tools, it's actually the storytelling that actually has the gems out of it that actually look at where your belief is, where you want to be, where you want to position your business. But more so, if you can document your storytelling, scrapbooking, I mean, online and so forth, or any way you want to do, writing it down, that actually becomes a massive whakapapa and mentoring role to be able to share with other women who want to go into business, or your own family want to go into business, because it's not so much the structure of the tools and methodology, it's the gems that you write down are really important. And storytelling is a big part of our whānau and whānau, being really able to look at the story of change that they've made over years, and also be able to tell a story of change that makes sense to them.
Kia ora. Because I suppose too, with that in mind there, Awarangi, is that by sharing your story, you often find that others resonate with parts of your story, and how it actually relates to their own story themselves. So being able to utilize your story to actually make a connection and make many connections to others and build that relationship and that trust over time. Would that be a fair comment there, Awarangi?
Yeah, relationship and trust. And the best thing about us is that if we can all just continue to keep connecting, such as the forum you've done like this, and you constantly try and build a network or meet people that are outside of your network, because it's good to have your own net with like-minded people, but sometimes it's actually good to go outside of that. And even if it's somebody who you really don't resonate with, or you think that it actually pushes you to go and meet them, because it actually informs more what you are and what you aren't about. So pushing yourself outside of your boundaries to have networks outside of that is just as important as the ones where you're connecting with like-minded, because it actually takes you to that next step. You need to do that in business though too. You need to be aware of outside of other areas that are outside of your comfort zone, because it just helps inform you more in your own business about being very clear what you are and what you aren't. But sometimes they actually give you gems as well about pushing you and taking you to the next step.
Fantastic. So, Awarangi, what are some of the tools that you might use to help with, I mean, one of the things we talk about self-leadership is self-management. Do you use particular tools to be able to implement self-management practices in your day-to-day life? Well,
it's all different for everyone, and it comes back to te whare tapawha, te taha wairua, and that's different, and that has a different meaning for everybody online tonight. But, for me, that's very much actually about my ahuru mōai, where I'm from, my whenua, making sure I get back and just have that close connection. And with that comes a whole sense of the wairua and whakapapa and where I'm from. So, and also for me, I'm actually, even though I enjoy meeting people and hui and being external, in fact, my whole drive for me is that I don't fill up my petrol tank unless I have time out for myself. That's how I am, So the reality is every night I actually have to have quiet time for myself. And it's just how you all are with your children and everything when that is. And it might seem impossible. It has been slightly impossible for me. That sometimes ended up between midnight and some ungodly hour of the morning, just quiet time by myself. But if I don't have that quiet time, I become quite rattled and I can't manage things as well the next day. Whereas, for some people, they're externally driven. The more and more they can be with people outside and so forth, the more their petrol tank fills up, So you just got to know what it takes to fill up your petrol tank. But for me, it's opting out of everything and having quiet time. But for others, it's the exact opposite. So that's an important thing to recognize. And, for everyone, there's no such thing really as a magical work-life balance, work whānau balance, because you have to make decisions about what's happening in your life with your whānau, all sorts of challenges, family, work, whatever, partner and so forth. You just have to remember what drives you, where you get your energy from, and just take a moment in time to do that. There's never a perfect moment, but you just got to grab a moment somewhere. And some people can do that better than others.
Look, you talked about, the importance of filling your tank. And I think it's really an important kōrero to have, because each and every one of us have different times of the day where your energy levels are actually quite different. So I'm an early bird. I get up 5:30 in the morning. Well, that's what I call early bird. And then I go to the gym from 6 to 7, and I do that 5 days a week. And I do that because that's the thing that energizes me, is to get my workout done, because if I get my workout done, that's te taha tēnana tick. But it's also te taha hinengaro as well, because it provides me mental clarity after the workout, and it recharges my battery for for that day. And so I'm very motivated and get a lot of work done in the mornings. But if you hit around about 2, 3 o'clock, my energy levels goes significantly, drops significantly. So so I suppose the point there was with some of our wahine here is to really think about, you know, the peaks and troughs too of your energy. Where are you at the highest level of energy, and where are you at the lowest level of energy, and then what activities do you need to put around that? Would that be a fair comment there, Awarangi?
Oh yeah, I think everybody here would agree for that. But you know, some of us are more ready to reflect on it than others, depending on what you got on. So some of us are right into that space, and some of us aren't quite there. We're just going to go through other things to get to that point. So it's really different for everyone. You know, it's going to be, you know, all it is. It's you're just on your own journey, really. Yeah. You're just being aware of things and listening to other people's stories, but it does not mean you have to do it that way. You know, that's something. So for you, each of you, what you're doing is you aren't following a textbook. The textbook of how you do your business, how you manage your lives and so forth is not written for you, because the thing is you're writing the textbook as you go. Yeah. There isn't a way to do it, and that's what you have to remember. So while other people may seem to have it perfectly all sorted, remember their journey is totally different to yours, and that's where you just got to keep your confidence up and belief in yourself that, you know, this is your journey, you're writing your textbook, and it will be very different to others. Some people might look like they go straight to the mountain and achieve their goals. For others of us, it's going round and round and round the mountain to get to the top, you know.
Kia ora.
Don't
Thank
be
you
hard on
very
yourself,
much.
is what I say.
Oh, thank you there, Awarangi. Wahine Ma, do you have any questions for Awarangi before we wrap up this part of the session? Any questions whatsoever there, guys?
It might be pretty broad, my convos. I don't know if that hit anywhere.
Hey, that's all good. I know the other night we had a few questions there, so this is a quiet group tonight, but that's all good. I mean, our wahine on here tonight are all established business owners, so they've been in business for at least 2 years or more. So they've actually had quite a bit of experience already with their businesses, and as you said, they've also shared with us their own some of their own stories and their own experiences, which has been fantastic. And as you said before, we're all different at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're all different. You know, I originally started off my career as a speech language therapist working with autistic children. That was originally my career. And then I moved into the health sector, working in the Ministry of Health and so forth, public sector work. And then I moved into working with the Iwi Authority in Gisborne, hospitals. And then I changed careers and did business and did worked at KPMG. And by then my mother and father gave up on saying, well, what's your job? Because I could never quite figure it out. And I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure either. But you know, sometimes having experience in different areas and moving yourself out of your comfort zone actually means you can come back into what your business is or whatever with quite a different lens. And sometimes there'll be a point where you in your business where you actually need a refresher, but to do that, you have to go somewhere quite different to come back in. But for me, all of that was really, really important when I work in, I mean, I work at Te Whanau Waiparaira Trust as well. And, you know, if you work in the not-for-profit sector, you have to understand working in government, you have to understand working in private sector, you have to understand working with our own people at grassroots, because you need all of those skills when you work in the not-for-profit sector. So it didn't make sense at the time. But in this part of the journey for me, yeah, it has come together, and it's something I'm actually really, really passionate about. Like, so, I don't hold a grudge against my husband for winning into politics when I was at KPMG. Turned down sort of a cool role to do that, because in fact it was really cool for me, because you know, my whole family have worked in Māori development and kaupapa Māori services and education, health, social services. So it builds on the strengths of actually my grandmothers, both my grandmothers, who are very strong in that area. And I didn't see, that's the storytelling. It's not until now that I look back on what they did, and even my great grandmothers, and I can see you can see oh, I get how that all came together, you know. A couple of years ago, I went back to the Shetland Islands, and my grandmother, her father was from the Shetland Islands, and you know, we all have those stories, but I totally understand my grandmother when I saw people that look very much and think and talk very much like my grandmother from the Shetland Islands, but she was an absolutely resilient woman who handled things very strongly, and you can see how you can apply some of that yourself when you're going on. So it's funny how things come together.
Oh, kia ora. Look, thank you very much there, Awarangi.
of what our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and everyone else did. You know, it's another step in the blueprint that's been laid before us, well before our time.
It certainly is there, Awarangi, and when we start thinking about the leaders within our own whānau, whether that's our mums, whether that's our grandparents or whoever, you know, it certainly, I suppose, you know, when you look at your experiences growing up with these wonderful people, and you think about the good and the bad and the ugly experiences, and then you think, well, actually, looking back, those ugly experiences weren't really ugly, those bad experiences weren't really that bad, they were all good learning going forward, and that's what you've got to put it down
and
to.
the learnings relate back to whare tapawha, because each of those learnings you can relate to a different part of it, so it just builds that whole picture, you know, that holistic picture of where we're at in time.
Oh, excellent. Hey, thank you very much for the Awarangi. Really appreciate your time. I know your time's very valuable, and I appreciate the fact that
we're on at 8:48 at night.
I know, we've got 10 minutes to go.
Well, okay.
Okay then, Awarangi, thank you very much for your time there, love, and I'll see you next week, okay? Kia ora, ka kite. Oh, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed our kai kōrero for tonight. Awarangi, she comes with a wealth of experience and knowledge. And given that her father was one of the, you know, was accredited in developing Te Whare Tapawha, I thought it was quite appropriate we actually bring her on board. But what I really enjoy about Awarangi, you know, she is who she is, and she is open to sharing her own experiences, as like we are all here today. And she emphasized the point around storytelling, you know, and this is why it's important in the next workshop we go through that process with you for you to develop your own story. Okay, so we'll all be going through that process in the next workshop. So on that note, I'm going to pass it back to Tanya, because we're about to do a recap, reflections, wrap up, and then I'll go through mahi kāinga, and then we'll finish up with the closing karakia. Over to you there, Tanya.
Kia ora, Lisa. Oh, that was awesome. She's so inspiring and uplifting and real. She keeps it really real, really authentic. I loved how she talked about trust, connectivity, and networking. And that's what, now that we're all together in this group, it'll be for each of you as you move through this together. You've got each other as well to ask questions to chat to directly if you want to, and ask as you learn more about each other. And definitely the storytelling, as Lisa said, as she said, that is what I find all the time. I'm sharing the storytelling about other people, or about what we do, or what I do, or people. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And also she mentioned about stepping outside of our comfort zone. That's where the growth occurs. That's where when we're outside 1 foot, 2 foot, however stretch it as comfortable as you can, take it step by step and keep going. And the introvert, extrovert recharger, when you discover what it is that you are. I'm an introvert recharger as well. I have to go to nature and be alone, or else my head fills up. And then other people I know need to go dancing or partying or whatever, and that would be my nightmare, but that's how they recharge. So definitely amazing. So what we're looking for now is just one from each of you, one word, one quick statement for a reflection for tonight, what stood out for you. And be mindful too that with the one-on-one coaching, to go in and book in for after this, and keep your notes with you, because that is what we can elaborate on in private and in depth in that time. So this is an overview, this is a workshop overview to take you through everything, and there'll be different things that will come up for each of you that you want to tap into and go deeper on, as well as the mahi kāinga that Lisa will take you through as well. So would you, Karel, start with jumping in and giving us a one word or a one quick statement on reflection for tonight, and we'll move through the group, and then we'll come back to Lisa for homework.
Ka pai, ai, kia ora tātou, ngā mihi kia koutou, mō koutou I tai mai I tēnei pō, pai te tūtaki, rorohi konei, I a koutou katoa. So my sort of leaving question that I've got in my notes is, am I living my purpose? And I think I heard that kind of resonate a lot with our kōrero today, and it really got me questioning about, am I actually doing it, not just saying it?
Sure. Beautiful. I've written that down for when we have our meeting next. Can't wait. Davida?
Ngā mihi kia koutou. Probably what resonates with me is what Lisa said. If you make a mistake, then move on for it. Forgive yourself. I never make mistakes, and I never forgive myself if I do make mistakes. So I have to learn that it's okay.
Kia ora. Thank you, Davida.
Thank you. That's a powerful leadership. Janine, you jumped in our last, kia ora, Janine. You jumped in our last part. Is there something there that you'd like to share from what you just heard in that kōrero?
Kia ora, yeah, I really valued her past kōrero about storytelling, and then just even reflecting on your grandparents and your parents' stories and the similarities, and just what kind of makes things into destiny if they've been instilled for so long in the generations.
Awesome. Thank you, Janine. Awesome. Jessica.
Sorry guys, yeah, I'm just so empowered by the kōrero that's just come from all aspects. I'm very, very honoured to be sitting here at the moment. That's all I can reflect from today, and listening to the cool mentors that you all are. So yeah, I've just got so much in my brain that it's just a little bit overwhelming.
Beautiful. I totally hear you, but it's a nice space to be in, so it'll just digest, and then it'll start to come through for you. Hang out with it all. Beautiful. Thank you. Kathy.
No, I really love that stepping outside your comfort zone bit.
Yeah.
I loved all the rest of the kōrero. It resonated really well. So yeah, really happy, but yeah, have to sometimes step out and deal, like she said, with people you don't normally deal with, and you find uncomfortable, but to move on.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Philippa, Pip, you there?
Ngā mihi kia koutou. I'm really grateful to be in this space, so thank you for making this happen. I think what shone for me was just that whole sharing the stories, and like for me having the courage to probably, I'm not a fan of social media or anything, but that's one way of, I guess, like sharing a story. So yeah.
Okay. Kia ora. Sarah.
Kia ora, ngā mihi. I really loved, I work with Awarangi. I really love her whakaaro. She's amazing. Thank you. And what I've been focused on is about my brand story. And she made a really good point actually about looking into whakapapa. And I come from a really strong lineage of Wahine Māori, and they are pretty staunch and resilient. So I think there might be some gems in there to weave into find the X factor of my brand story. Yeah.
Nice.
Well done.
I love that. Thank you, Sarah. Leisha.
Yeah, kia ora. So yeah, no, this is awesome kōrero with her, listening to what she was saying. I think for me, I've got a story, and my tohu's been handed down by Nanny and my mum, and they were hard workers. And we always used to complain about my mum. Oh, why can't we do this? Can't we do that? Because she worked the whole blooming life, And now I look and I'm thinking, holy hell, I'm doing the same thing. I'm ignoring my kids. So yeah, so I think balance is huge. I've got to stop. I'm not running the business. My business is running me. I need to step back a bit. Take it. It's okay to chill. Don't sweat the big stuff. If you don't get your order done in time, get the pie. You're not. Well, I am a machine, but people people do expect me to get it out on time. But just I really got to I talked about going from 50 to 100. I'm thinking I'm going to go sit around about 75 and just have a chill out period. I don't need to go that past that, I need to have more my time. I used to love triathlons. I haven't ran. I used to ride cycles and oceans. I don't even do that anymore because I think I don't have the time. I need to make time for me. Yeah, so ka pai.
You
Yeah,
actually brought up a very good point there, Leisha. Often I get the same comment when I'm mentoring business owners as to why things aren't done. I just don't have enough time. And I say BS to that, because we all got the same 24 hours a day. It's just that how we prioritize it. It's not that you didn't have the time, it's that that thing really wasn't a priority.
Yeah, I.
For the time that you do have. And this is the difference in mindset there, Wahine Ma. You know, and I'm going to get Tanya to share the bed kōrero there, Tanya, you know, because part of it is making excuses.
Yeah.
For why you haven't done things, because that's what they are. They're just excuses. So I'm going to pass it back to you there, Tanya. Would you mind just sharing the bed
I'll just
concept?
say one quick thing, Leisha, as feedback that I would love to work on with you is around identity, how you identify with yourself, because you were saying I am statements, I am a hard worker, I am, and I don't have, and all those things. So that's part of your makeup as to how you run your business and how you are as a leader. And then what you can do is have that and then expand on it, and that's where you bring in having the time and the time for your moko. And so I wrote that down in my notes for when we do our coaching. Because I take my hat off to you. You are observing this group and seeing what's working for you, and then what you want to work on, and it's awesome. It's a great leadership straight away. Thank you. So Lisa, what you're talking about is there's a line. If you draw a line in the sand, and below it is BED, blame, excuses, denial. So that's a victim mindset, a scarcity mindset as well. And then above that is OAR, is when you're rowing your waka. OAR is you're taking ownership, accountability, and you're being responsible for rowing your waka, for moving forward, whereas you're above the line. So you're either lying in your bed, blaming someone, having excuses, or denial, which is scarcity, which is keeping you in a victim mindset, which is a negative energy space, or you're in a positive space where you're rowing and you're taking ownership, and if you're flipping your languaging, your self-talk, how you're thinking into a responsible context of conversation, and it changes everything. So instead of saying he did that to me, it would be more like I allowed that to happen. So you take ownership of it and you're responsible for it. And that's the line in the sand. And as leaders, we want to be rowing our own waka.
Kia ora. Kia ora there, Tan. Hey, look, thank you very much there, Wahine Ma. Really appreciate you sharing your kōrero in terms of one key learning that you got from today's workshop. So what we would like you to do, just going to share mahi kainga. If you go to page 24 of your book there's an exercise I'd like you to do, and it's called the Wheel of Life exercise. And the step one of that Wheel of Life exercise is identify key areas within your life that's important, and we call these domains for the purpose of this exercise. So I want you to identify what are the 10 top priorities or 10 most important things in your life. So there are some examples that you can reflect upon, but once you finish that step number one, I then want you to do step number 2 on page 25. You might have to print that particular page out just to do that exercise. I want you to put those 10 domain names at the outer side of this circle, of this wheel. And then once you've done that, the next step there is step 3. We want you to actually rate that each of those aspects of your life. So there's an example here. So if it is mahi, okay, so this is personal. You judge out of 5 out of the 10, 1 being not satisfied at all, 10 being very satisfied. And then I want you to connect the dots, so connect the lines. Because part of this exercise, which is the next step, is identifying where the areas in your life you think you need to focus more time on. Okay, and that's where you identify in step number 5 and number 6. So that's mahi kainga would like you to do. Now, I would certainly encourage you to do that if you can prior to Tanya's mentoring session, because then you've got some other areas that you could focus on in addition to the areas that Tanya's already identified. So that would be my encouragement. Now, the other thing that I put into the chat box is the link to Tanya's diary for you to book one-on-one mentoring sessions with her. But what I'm going to do tomorrow, I'll be sending out what we call fortnightly email communications that will have that link on that email tomorrow. We'll have the following workbooks, workshop workbook that will be on there as well as some other information too. So that will be sent out to you tomorrow night. So on that note, there, whānau, let's close up. It is just after 9 o'clock tonight. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time tonight. I hope you took away some real key learnings from tonight's workshop, and it sounds like you did. And more importantly, be able to reflect upon those key learnings, but actually think about, well, how do I make change from these learnings going forward? And this is where your time with Tanya in terms of your mentoring will be fantastic for you to be able to get that level of support and guidance. So, me inoi tātou. Kia tātou katoa, kia te whae tō tātou arikia ihu karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whipunga tautanga ki te wairua tapu. Ake, amene. Kia ora wahine mā, Paul Marie, have a wonderful night tonight. In fact, have a wonderful week, long weekend, Waitangi weekend. And we look forward to catching up with you. I look forward to catching up with you in a fortnight's time. And Tanya will be catching up with you very shortly for your mentoring session. So we'll certainly see you there. So, ka kite koutou, Paul Marie.
Stay on, Lisa?
Yes,
Paul Marie.
Paul Marie.
Paul Marie.